So welcome to the Psalms Compressed. Today I would like to talk about Psalm 17. And Psalm 17 is a heartfelt prayer of David, asking God for protection and vindication in the face of his enemies. In this psalm, we see David's reliance on God's justice, his trust in God's faithful love, and his desire to remain righteous, despite the trials surrounding him. But first, let us read through this psalm. The Lord is my King. Let the peoples tremble. He sits enthroned upon the cherubim. Let the earth quake. The Lord is great in Zion. He is exalted over all the peoples. Let them praise you, great and awesome name. Holy is he. Mighty King, lover of justice, you have established equity. You have executed justice and righteousness in Jacob. Extol the Lord our God. Worship at his footstool. Holy is he. Moses and Aaron were among his priests. Samuel also was among those who called on his name. They cried to the Lord, and he answered them. He spoke to them in the pillar of the cloud. They kept his decrees and the statutes that he gave them. O Lord our God, you answered them. You were a forgiving God to them, but an avenger of their wrongdoings. Extol the Lord our God and worship at this holy mountain, for the Lord of our God is holy. If you have read through the Psalms alone or here together with us, you will notice a pattern. And some of the things that we can find here, we have been through before. And David here in this psalm, he begins by pleading for God's attention, asking him to listen to his prayer because it comes from a sincere heart. He is confident that God, who knows all things, can examine his heart and vindicate him. And this shows us that when we approach God, we don't need to pretend or hide our struggles. You see, God, he listens to honest prayers, especially when we are walking in integrity. And like David, we can call out to God for help, knowing that he is a righteous judge. Our prayers should be rooted in sincerity and trust that God knows our hearts, even when others don't really understand us. And I think this is utterly important and good for us to know. David here describes his enemies as fierce and powerful, but he places his hope in God's wondrous love. He likens God's protection to being the apple of God's eye or being hidden in the shadow of his wings. Despite the overwhelming challenges, David relies on God's loving care to shield him from danger. When we face opposition or we feel overwhelmed, we can find comfort in God's steadfast love. His love is like a shield that protects us, and his presence is a refuge where we can find peace, even in the midst of conflict. Or like a stronghold, impossible to break into. David later on contrasts the temporary prosperity of the wicked with his own eternal hope in God. He looks forward to seeing God's face and being satisfied in his presence. And David's ultimate desire is not just for the earthly deliverance, but for a deep, eternal relationship with God. In our struggles, it is important to remember that earthly success and comfort are fleeting. True satisfaction comes from seeking God's presence and living in light of the eternity. Our ultimate hope is not in this world, but in being with God forever. Psalm 17 encourages us to trust in God's righteousness, to seek his protection, and to keep our eyes fixed to this eternal prize. When we pray sincerely and live with integrity, we can be confident that God, he hears us, he protects us, and will one day bring us into his glorious presence, where we'll be fully satisfied in him, in the new heaven and the new earth.